everyone, and welcome to Transformational Tuesdays. I'm Teresa Velardi, your host for this time of inspiration, education, motivation, and conversation focused on key ingredients necessary to create positive change in our lives, which I call transformation. And I want to welcome everyone who's joining us either by video or by phone, or if you're watching the replay. I know that this is going to be a conversation that is for everyone. So when I put out this information on the call today, I actually asked a question. Are you someone who's totally living in the moment and flying by the seat of your pants? I love that. Or are you planning and anticipating every minute of what's ahead? Do you accept that everything happens for a reason in the moment, that it actually happens? Or do you throw a little temper tantrum or a pity party if things don't happen exactly the way you planned them? So I'm someone who flies by the seat of my pants for the most part. And there are people on this conversation, people on this call today who can testify to that, because I'm forever either making an effort to go somewhere that I didn't have on my schedule, or I'm always open to change, to possibilities and change. And in some ways, I believe that this is a key ingredient in order to be able to be successful in so many areas of your life. Now, as an entrepreneur, I'm so grateful that I have the flexibility to be able to be able to do the things that I do, or to make the decisions that I make. So people say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I'm sure many of you have heard that quote, but is this really true? That's a question. And I would actually bring this question up in the Byron Katie work that she does. And that's the question, is this true? And in some ways, yes, it is true, but I believe that there are times, many, many times, and more times than not, that we really do need to fly by the seat of our pants, so to speak. So what do I mean by fly by the seat of our pants? I mean flexible. And this is really a conversation about flexibility versus rigidity. I'll start this off with a conversation, with a story of how I had a friend who lived here in northeastern Pennsylvania, who was always very rigid in her thinking and very rigid in her scheduling. So if I said to her, I'll call you at around 10 o'clock on Tuesday, and then for some reason I couldn't call her at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, well, let me tell you the hissy fit that she threw over the fact that I didn't call her at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. And actually, she ended our friendship because I didn't call her at 10 o'clock on Tuesday. I'm like, who could be living life with that much rigidity and the need to be right all the time? During the conversation I had with this person, I said, there are people in my life from as far back as high school who I don't talk to for many years. Yet when we get together, it's like, it's very welcoming and very like, oh, so good to see you. What's been going on in your life? And we catch up as though no time had passed. This person did not have the ability to do this. She thought that if I said 10 o'clock on Tuesday, it had to be 10 o'clock on Tuesday, or else I wasn't being a good friend. And I couldn't grab hold of that. So she was very rigid in her thinking. And for people who know me, I do these little acronyms. If I wrote the word rigid down on a piece of paper, which I did this morning, I put rigid as the concept of being right and inflexible to any grace or growth that invites devastation of the spirit, is what came to me this morning. Because if somebody is that rigid and they're not allowing themselves to grow or to be flexible, it brings me to the pottery. Like I'm a potter, and people who know me know that I'm a potter, and I have to be flexible in making pottery. I've got to allow the clay to show me what it wants to be. actually. So there's got to be a certain level of flexibility that invites imagination into your life and growth into your life. So if I didn't allow myself to be flexible and experience new things or fly by the seat of my pants, so to speak, I wouldn't have experienced so many of the beautiful things that have become part of who I am. I think that we have to have a certain boldness in our life, which boldness of being, if you will, that will help to create who and embrace and elicit who we are authentically. So contrary to being rigid, I wrote one for flexible. Finding love and light in every moment, exuberantly inviting boldness of being to limber your life's essence. So I was like, when I get these little things, I get those little chills. It's kind of like a God wink coming to me, like, I get you, Teresa. I understand what you want to say, and let's say it using words, because everybody knows I'm a self-professed word nerd. I'll go, my good friend Webster's dictionary is like, I always kid that I have an ongoing relationship with Webster's dictionary, because it's forever that I'm going there to find definitions and information to bring into this conversation. So, I want to approach this from a place of being rigid versus being flexible. And I have to go, many of you know I'm a student of the Bible, and I was privy to a video by Beth Moore, who really is a great illustration of this in her conversation about law versus grace. So not to get into a biblical teaching here, but I just want to say that the Old Testament is the laws that God gave us, and the New Testament is Jesus and the grace that he gives to us through forgiveness of sins through the crucifixion on the cross. And that's really a good illustration of rigidity versus flexibility. So, are you allowing yourself grace in the moment to be able to experience whatever it is without the judgment and the self-chatter that keeps you in that place of rigidity, as this person who I illustrated, who was my friend for some time, and it was okay for a while, but then all of a sudden I didn't meet her expectations. And we all know that how expectations can get us in trouble, and if we're expecting something to be a certain way, then and it doesn't go that way, it can tear us apart if we have this expectation, as did this friendship with this woman, because she couldn't get past the fact that I didn't call her on Tuesday. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? And some of you, or what stopped her from reaching out? No, it's put the full responsibility on me. Friendship, relationships are a give and take thing. And they are, actually, I'm not even going to say give and take. They're a give and give thing, because we give from our hearts and soul. And we both enjoy the experience. Friends enjoy the experience of sharing time with each other, sharing space and conversation with each other. There are people on this call today, on the show today, who I could stay on the phone for 2.5 hours and not even get everything said that's in the conversation. It's like, so it's awesome. And we're in various parts of the country, coast to coast, or, all over the place. It's just, for me, relationships have to have flexibility and have to have an invitation to be who you are. Bring your boldness of being, who you are, and limber yourself to your life's essence. Invite time for yourself and your talents, for yourself and your talents, because, I believe that we all have gifts and talents. We came here with certain things. Every one of us is different. And even if we have similar talents, nobody does things that we are gifted with the same way that we do. Nobody makes pottery the way that I do. Nobody delivers Transformational Tuesdays the way that I do. And that's not to say that I'm the bomb or I'm the best at this. It's just, I show up as who I am. Show up as who you are with what you have in every given moment. And that is flexibility versus rigidity. It's the concept of being in the box and allowing yourself to step out of the box. So there's a lot of things that are coming to my mind, because part of me through this conversation is literally flying by the seat of my pants. And I will share with you what comes into my mind, because I think that that's the way certain messages from spirit, from God, whatever, that is how they come to be part of this conversation. I allow myself to let my thoughts become part of the conversation. And although some of them may not, or some of them may not be part of this conversation, they may show up for something else later on, or there may be something that comes to mind that I may have had a conversation with someone a few years ago. By the way, I was thinking about blah, 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 and this came to my mind. Or suddenly I got this thought of whatever, and I would like to share it with you. So it doesn't have to be that unless we have set an appointment, we cannot talk to that person. Or if someone hasn't called, when I go back to that conversation that I had with this woman who was my friend, who, by the way, I met when I was working at the Home Depot, and this is how it happened. She said, I just moved to this area. I'm from New York. I'm from New York. I live in Pennsylvania. She just moved to Pennsylvania. And I really don't know anybody. I don't have anybody to have coffee with or anything. I said, I'll have coffee with you, because that's who I am. I'll have coffee with you. So we met at Panera Bread. We had a great conversation. We made a plan to have dinner together, or whatever the case may be. She invited me up to her house. I met her husband and her son, and it was just beautiful. It was the start of a great friendship. And then all of a sudden, the box shows up. This rigidity of like, I have to call at a certain time, and the give and take wasn't there. And although there had been previous conversations, I have a life. I don't wait for somebody to call me, or I don't call if I'm in the middle of something else. And if the conversation is that important to you, why don't you pick up the phone and call me? It's got to be that both people are willing to participate. It's the same way in business. Both people have to be willing to participate. I was reading something somewhere along the line here, that about being an entrepreneur versus being in big business. If you, and I'm sure Barbara, you can speak to this, if you are working for corporate America, you have to play the game by their rules. You have to live by the law, so to speak, of the corporation. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have the capability, just like I have the capability on the potter's wheel, to mold and shape things the way that I want them to look, my life the way I want it to look, my conversations here the way I want them to look. And the writing that I do is absolutely an example of flexibility, because I may think that I want to start out something one way and I want to get a message, and all of a sudden I'm writing and I'm like, oh, this is taking a turn for the better. I have to be open to that. That's why I've never, in all the writing that I've done, I've never written an outline that I didn't change half a dozen times or more before the piece was completed. So and then the same thing, like if I sit down at the pottery wheel and I think in my mind I'm going to make bowls, and all of a sudden the clay is telling me, oh no, we're going to make vases today. Chances are, and this is why it's hard for me to take orders from people for pottery, because if I'm sitting down and I'm thinking I'm going to make bowls, and I decide, and through the experience, because I always, whenever I make pottery, I always invite the higher power, God, universe, whatever, higher self, into the conversation with the clay, because it is a conversation. I'm like, I'm going to push you a little bit this way. What do you think about that? And he says, no, I think I want to go that way. And it's like, this is the best illustration that I can say for this. So if I'm starting out making bowls and the clay tells me I would rather be a vase, and I decide that I'm going to muscle my way through this whole thing, and I'm going to be rigid in my thinking and make those bowls, chances are they end up in the rubble pot. They end up being nothing but a lump of clay, because I didn't pay attention to what was going on. So here, that's another big factor. Pay attention to what's going on in your life. Do you need to be so rigid in your thinking, or is there a way that you can be flexible? If you are making plans with someone and could only do, is there a way that you can like come to an agreement about something? Is there a way that you can come to an agreement with your indifferences? That's the way that relationships are built, and that's the way that work is created in a very I don't want to keep using the word flexible, moldable state. Let's say that. And I'm going to ask Doreen, and when we open these lines here, I work with Doreen Harper, and there she is. There's our beauty behind all of the great emails you get, and all the things that you see on Transformational Tuesdays, and she's my right arm when it comes to this. And I have to have a very open conversation with her, very flexible conversation. Doreen, let me open your line if I can. Are you okay to unmute there? Okay. So when we work together, I may think I want to do something this way. And then Doreen says, well, how about this? And we have this conversation, and we've worked together for a long time. Doreen, what's your experience in working with people? And this is from somebody who's in technology and has parameters to stay within in order to be able to make the goal a reality. There are ways that when we have a conversation and I'm like wanting to have something done this way, and then you tell me it has to be done according to what you have available to you. I just really want you to speak to the ability to be flexible versus rigid in your conversations with not only me, with your clients. And most of the time you come to a place of agreement. Yes?
Yeah. And well, first of all, I truly believe that in any relationship, whether it's business or personal, if you set your expectations up from the beginning, then you tend to be able to meet in the middle on most things, even if that's not where you want to meet. So, the very first conversation that I always have with any potential client is, I am here to give you support and advice, and my strategies may be different than your strategies, so we're going to have to make sure that we kind of dwell them together. Some of my strategies come from expertise from working in the industry for so long, so I'm not trying to tell you something to push you back. And a lot of times it works. Now, it doesn't always work. You have a lot of individuals who have the mindset that this is my business, I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it. And that absolutely is anybody's given choice. But if you've got that mindset and don't want to take any type of input, opinion, or even recommendations from someone who's trying to better you, then you're not going to get any better. Because not one of us, no one on the call, myself included, knows it all. So combined together, we make something bigger and better, and that's how I try to approach it with my clients. On a personal level, it's, I'm a very outspoken individual. I will say exactly what's on my mind, and it's never to hurt somebody's feelings, but that's who I am. And on the onset, I let people know that as well, just because some people can take what you say and think that you're meaning to hurt them, and that's not the case. I'd rather somebody come to me and be as honest as they can about something that I've said, something that I've worn, anything that I've done, and then let me sit back in the moment and reflect on it, and then get out of it what I need to. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people sadly don't do that. Yeah. So when we're looking at being flexible, whether it's in our business or whether it's in a personal relationship, we've also got to look at the fact, how is somebody actually presenting what they're presenting to you? If you know that it's an individual who cares about you or who is looking for you to succeed, they may be telling you something you don't want to hear in order to help you do that. Mm-hmm. So we have to step back from ourselves and really take all of that into consideration and bend where we need to bend.
Right. Yeah, thanks, Doreen. Thank you so much. And I'm in total agreement with you because, you know, I have to go back to this thing about rigidity. Being right and inflexible to any grace or growth invites devastation of the spirit. It also is demoralizing to the other person and to yourself, because it internally, you tend to lose touch with who you are. The rigidity, you tend to lose touch with yourself. And I've always felt bad for this person who, by the way, I went on vacation a couple of times with, and she had every minute of every day planned out. It's like, well, I don't want to go get ready for dinner right now. I want to sit by the pool. I want to read my book, whatever. Can't we just be, nope, I made the reservation for 5 o'clock and we have to be there. Well, what is vacation to you? What is vacation? You know, so the rigidity part is like, it takes away from that spark of who you are. Does that make sense? It takes away from that boldness of being, that authenticity. And I love what Doreen said. I'm a very, outspoken individual, and that's being bold in who you are. And it took me a long time to be able to be bold in who I was. Barbara, you want to say something?
Oh, yes.
What?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead. Floor is yours. I see that hand waving. I'm like, okay, Barbara.
You know, the work I do is the Akashic work. Mm-hmm. I've learned about people at a very divine level. By the way, Doreen, you're in divine truth. You're a truth teller. We need you because a lot of people in fantasy land will make things up in stories about what goes on in life, but you gently come in and you keep us focused and reflective of the truth of who we are. So the truth of who we are, everyone has that truth. That's the bottom line. So while I might be in communication and I might be a healer, we know, Teresa, that you are a builder. You will build anything, including communities, which is what you do here so well. You also have a very beautiful secondary energy center, which is divine communication, which is why you are doing what you do. And the beauty of it is that if we all stop and just think about the fact that we have a wheel, we're all the wheel. Here's my wheel. Let me show you my wheel. Can you see my wheel?
Yeah.
That's my wheel. Okay. So those are all my energy centers and how my energy centers show up. So I know exactly who I am. But you have a wheel and Doreen has a wheel. Everyone on this call today has a wheel. And so if we take a look at that and we honor that aspect, like you honor the clay, if we honor the aspect of who each of us are at our soul level, I'm talking about what God and you and all of us decided before we came. You're always this. I don't care how many lifetimes you've had. I've always shown up in communication and a healer. You have always shown up as a builder and in communication. Doreen, you've always been in divine truth. I don't even need to read your records to know that you're in divine truth. Because I've taken a lot of time to look at people and listen to people and understand exactly where they're coming from. And if you take the time to do that and you honor them for who they are, all that other stuff of judgment and everything goes away, because we are not separate. We are not different. We are all of the same. We all have a wheel. So while you might be more in divine truth and I'm in divine communication, there is an element that you have in your wheel, Doreen and Teresa, that is similar. We all are similar. Mm-hmm. So that's the basis of the work that I do now. And I love to listen to people because I want to listen to who they are. Mm-hmm. So when you have rigidity, you are not listening to the truth of who someone is.
Exactly.
Because if you have time to be judgmental and have bias, then you are not respecting that aspect of a person's true nature, which is not unlike your own. So I don't know where you're getting that uppity shit from, because let me tell you, you're all coming from the same place.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's the honoring of that spirit and the gifts, the honoring of the gifts that we have. Then who has time for that judgment? And let me tell you, I've negotiated lots and lots of contracts in my former corporate career as a legal, corporate attorney. if you bring anybody to the table that has a set idea about how it's going to go, you got a mess on your hands, because you're never going to get something done. And Doreen spoke to that. If you can't open your mind up to just a second of conversation or perspective, you may as well just close the paper and go away.
Exactly.
And again, I invite you, look at what you are, look at yourself, because if you're not looking at yourself, and that's what Doreen says, sometimes people don't want to hear it. Yeah, they don't. They don't want to look at themselves. But see, the problem with that is that we're all divine. We're divine. We have divine elements of every aspect of our being. Why wouldn't you want to get to know who you are?
Mm-hmm.
So when I coach people and their Akashic purposes and things, we really spend time looking at that divinity, because if you really understand where you're coming from, everything makes sense to you. Everything is clear to you.
Indeed.
And we've worked together. You know that we sat down and I said, look, here you are. Look at your mirror. It's beautiful. Yeah. Everybody's here. Everybody's got a mirror that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Look back at your. So all that rigidity stuff, it's like, oh, that person's just not connected to who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
More than each other.
And that's the thing, I think that a lot of times, thank you, Barbara, because I think a lot of times people have created themselves according to other people's expectations. Okay. Which, when you look at, what do I want to say? When you look at, I recently wrote in a book, which, by the way, I have it here. I'm going to show you 365 life shifts, pivotal moments that changed everything. I have 2 stories in here. And one of them is about how I really took control of who I am. And I speak to that in my bio, which is on Transformational Tuesdays. And really, I asked myself a couple of questions. Am I living my own life? And the title of one of these stories is Trading the Scripted Life for Authenticity. Trading in the Script for Authentic Living is the name of it. And it's really like, for people who don't know who they are, who are feeling like they have to be according to other people's expectations and have no flexibility within themselves in order to be able to be that. That was the life I used to live. When I was married, I was the woman who my ex-husband expected me to be. I did things according to his law, if you will, to his expectations, and not rock the boat when it came to certain things in his life. And the minute that I started stepping out of the boat and getting into the water and cleansing away all of that stuff of who I was, once I started doing that, he had 2 choices. He could either come along for the ride, or he could find something else to do. And I made the choice to divorce myself from that man, because I was completely lost. My pottery was completely gone. I was completely lost. And I remember what's coming to my mind right now is the day that I first had a pottery show in my house. And I bought him out. We had this beautiful house in Long Island, and it was a ranch, and you could see every room from the front entry. And so what I did was I turned every room into a mini gallery. The whole house was a gallery. And I had created all this pottery. When I decided that I was going to really let go of what he expected, the first thing I did was sign up for a pottery class and get some refresher lessons, because I hadn't made pottery since high school or college. And so I went and I took a few lessons. Then I decided to, after I bought him out of the house, I converted the garage to a studio. And then I started taking in students as well as making pots myself. So I had to turn the house into a major studio and a gallery. And so there was pottery in every single room. And in the fall, there would be a fire in the fireplace. I had fresh hot cider on the stove. I had baked some really yummy stuff. And everybody who came in didn't just come to look pottery. They came for the experience of who I was in so many different aspects. as I think of this, it's like this is the ultimate stepping out of the box experience. And so people who I knew, knew what my life was like before I was married, before I was divorced, had come to that, and they just were like, oh, they were just like enveloped by the atmosphere, and people sat down and had conversation that was like they didn't want to leave. They sat in the living room, they had their cider or their tea or whatever, and people who had never met each other developed friendships in this atmosphere. So I guess this is part of what are you bringing? What are you doing to invite other people into your world as well? Even though like I'm consistently flying by the seat of my pants. And that's why, with Doreen, how the title of this came to be, Doreen said to me, what are you going to talk about this week? I said, I don't know. I guess I'm flying by the seat of my pants. And then I thought about it and I was like, wow, that's a great lesson in rigidity versus flexibility. But I didn't really get that until later last night. I gave her the information, and I was like, there is something to be said here. So this is all about, I guess the bottom line with this whole thing is being flexible, not only with other people, but being flexible with yourself and who you are. That experience of having that first pottery show was life-changing for me. People who normally didn't want to come into my house because of the energy of my ex-husband was very, very rigid and whatever. It was like we were like oil and water. We just never really mixed. And how I didn't get that beforehand, I don't know. But it's one of those V8 moments. Like what was I thinking? I could have had a V8. But I'm gonna open your line, Barbara. But I just want to say that people who were in my house before this, they noticed the minute they walked into the door, the dramatic difference energetically in the atmosphere as well as in me. Yes, Barbara, go ahead.
Well, the thing about it is that the reason why you didn't, see it before was because you were working off of pages in your playbook, your life playbook, that weren't yours. And we have them. And so that's what I teach people to do, is to unblock from that. Mm-hmm. Because, we get a lot of info from places we work, our parents, our friends. And so we create page of rules that we live our life by. But if you really take that book out, you look at all those pages, you're going to see that there's stuff in there that does not work and does not fit to honor who you are at soul level. Mm-hmm. Those pages need to come out. Mm-hmm. And that's where kids get, that really rocky time between becoming an adult and they've got all the pages in their playbook, mostly from their parents. And then they need to start making their own rules based upon who they really are. But you got to know who you are. Mm-hmm. And at least you stepped up and honored the truth of who you were, so that you could actually start creating pages in your playbook that matched you and that supported who you are in life.
Right. And I want to say that there was, I didn't really know who I was or who I was to become. And I still and life is unfolding. As long as we're here, life is unfolding and we're not done yet. So there are parts of me that are still coming to the surface that I didn't know existed.
You will always expand into the true person that you are. Because see, we're here to experience ourselves. We're not here to work off karma or to do anything else. We're here just to have a great life and experience ourselves as human beings. Yeah, that's how God experiences himself, through our experiences. Uh-huh. So the reality of that is that every time you make a choice to do something that's new or exciting or different, you're just experiencing who you are through your lenses. And it's not anybody else's lenses that matter. It's like, you're the lens. You need to look through your own lenses. Yeah. And that's the beauty, because every time we choose to do something, we're having a new experience, and that floats everybody's boat, whether they know it or not.
Yeah. Love it. Thanks.
And I just want to add, a lot of times we second guess ourselves, and we've got to stop doing that, because if you've got an intuition, if something is inside of you, eating at you, about what you should do, and this goes to the flexibility part. Let's just say with me and a client, I have been blessed to have clients for a very long time, and then I've also have had clients that I've had to fire, because I know that the chemistry between us was not accurate, or they weren't, it's not all about the money to me. They weren't going to get advantage of what I had to offer because they weren't listening to what I had to offer. It was going to be their way or no way. So when you have an intuition or that something is intuitively telling you it's not working, listen to yourself and move away from that, because then you are honoring yourself, you're being true to yourself, and the only way that you can learn flexibility and can learn to take control of your life is to actually honor those feelings that you're getting. Because if you're in, whether it's a relationship like you, Teresa, whether it's a client relationship, whatever type of relationship it is, if you are not 100% present and they're not 100% present, and there is not something to be gained on both sides, and I'm not talking about financially gained, I'm talking about either emotionally or anything else gained, then it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And what you're going to find is that you may actually take on the characteristics of this other individual who is bringing you down because you don't know how to escape that whole area.
Right. Well said. And I just want to invite everybody who's on the phone, if you want to be part of the conversation, you can press *9 on your phone. If you are on video and would like to be part of the conversation, you can either just raise your hand or jump in the chat and let me know. You can even just have your comments in the chat if you'd like as well. So Kendra, I know you're probably not in a place where you can go ahead and talk, but go ahead. If you have something to say, please put it in the chat box. Hi, I'm going to unmute this caller, area code 309. Hello. 303, sorry.
Okay, who are you inviting to speak?
You, absolutely.
This is Ann. Okay, this is Ann, and I've had a really wonderful, wonderful life. It was most amazing when my son went to Iraq the first time. In 2004, I would send him a great big box, 65, 70 pounds, and for him to have while he was, in this remote, horrible area. And he shared with the people in his unit, 8 people. Paul, don't do that. So I got some friends and relatives to also send to Paul, and so then he shared with his platoon, 32 people. Then more sharing. Before Christmas, now this started in August of 2004, before Christmas, he was sharing with 3,600 guys, and I had tons of people sending boxes. I don't know how many people I had, but I mean probably 50, 60, 70 people sending boxes. Okay, well, because he shared and the generosity of all the people, we started the organization Adopt a U.S. Soldier, that's .org. We celebrated our 12th birthday on February 4th. We now have over 1,700,000 supporters from 204 countries around the world, countries that people haven't heard of: Gwent, Palau, Seychelles, KwaZulu. And it's just the most amazing thing. Truly, grace of God, a help of a whole lot of volunteers that made this so huge. I found out recently that I have touched the lives of over 2 million people. And that would be in a positive way.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And this is a great example, through the gifting of herself to another, this whole thing expanded, so when I say relationships are built through giving, this is a perfect example of how that is possible. And the beauty of that whole thing is you enabled others to step up and do the same thing so that they could benefit in some way themselves. Because, here's the thing about my Aunt Rose used to always give and never take anything back. And what I learned from that experience is that when people do that, they they inhibit the gift that is being given to the giver of the experience of giving something. There are a lot of people who it takes a lot of effort for them to have that experience of giving. People who, there may be some people, and I don't know if you can speak to this, Anne, but there may be some people in your circle of givers who really give from stuff that they don't have. Like they really reach down into the bottom of the barrel to be able to put something together to send to these military people, the soldiers who have nothing from home. So it does something to your spirit when you do that. And I know from my own experience and from what I've learned, when you give, it comes back to you tenfold. It comes back tenfold.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, it really is just the most wonderful, amazing thing. I'm now retired. I just retired this last year. And it would depend on the day, emails from people from 6 different countries to 35 different countries a day. Wow. Telling me how grateful they are. That's awesome. I mean, just amazing, amazing, amazing. And I'm backward. I've got a big house in Colorado and a little tiny condo down here in Denver. And I've had hundreds of our troops to the mountains. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. They're ever so grateful.
Thank you for making such a difference in the world and for being flexible in your ability to do so. Thanks so much, Anne. Thank you. Wow. And that's like none of this. I believe that the flexibility factor and the flying by the seat of your pants, if you want to call it that, are really the essence of who we are. We have to be flexible in order to be able to make things like that happen. I mean, that's a great example. So,
yeah, because if you're going to look at where the flexibility is, she shared her love for her son across the troops of everybody else that was there. So instead of having the mindset, well, I'm sending this directly to my son and that's who should benefit from it, her son was sharing it, and she took on the flexibility of the fact that was what her son was doing, and she grew upon that instead of being selfish. And that's the key right there, is she took the flexibility with it.
Right. Thank you. Absolutely. And one of the big thing that one of the words that like has a flashing sign on it that comes to me all the time is gratitude. So, and be grateful for the experience of giving, be grateful for the experience of having made a difference in somebody else's life, because they are grateful, even though they may not have the capability to express it. And which is going to lead me to just let you know that if you have a conversation, just like this book here, see this book here? And there's each one of these little stories is like about 250 words to 300 words. I am putting together with the help of Doreen, a book called The Daily Gift of Gratitude. And you can find out about that on the website. And Doreen, I'm saying this to give myself kick in the butt to get you what you need in order to be able to complete this project here. So A Daily Gift of Gratitude is going to be the first in a series called the Daily Gift Book Series. So if you go to dailygiftbookseries.com, there will be a video there. There is a video there that will tell you what we're looking for and a way that you can be a part of that book. So, and of course, if you have questions, if you want to talk about it, you can email me at Teresa@teresavelardi.com or teresavelardi@gmail.com. Either one of those. And Teresa without an H. Okay, so just send me your emails and I'll be happy to give you all the information. And so now I've just opened my mouth, and this means I have to get everything to Doreen so that that site is complete, and then you can get the information that you need in order to be able to be part of that as well. We already have several stories that have been submitted for this, so I just love that And that people are stepping up to tell their stories of gratitude as well. So I invite you to go ahead and have a look at that, or email me, Teresa at teresavelardi.com, or teresavelardi@gmail.com, and I'll put that in the chat box. Doreen, would you put that in the chat box for me, please? This way I can, and if you have something to add to this conversation about flexibility, first of all, I want who's going to admit that they are a flying by the seat of their pants kind of girl with me? Nobody? Nobody? So, okay, Kendra says she's flying by the seat of her pants too. So that's good, because that means you've got flexibility in your life. Doreen,
which one did you want me to put into the chat box?
Both of them, Teresa at teresavelardi.com or teresavelardi@gmail.com. Either one of them will get to me. So I have somebody raising their hand again. Anne, is that you? Are you admitting that you're a fly by the seat of your pants kind of girl? Is that why you're raising your hand?
No, I wanted to say one more thing, and that is another little miracle. It only costs us $400 to $500 a year to operate, and considering we are as huge as it is that the most amazing thing you've ever heard in your life?
Amazing. $400 to $500 operational expenses for touching so many millions of lives. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yep. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So, you know, that just goes to show that when you step up to whatever it is that comes to you, the resources are provided for you, because for her to be able to do that, somebody has to be giving more of themselves in order to be able to make that happen. And that's the other thing too. By your being flexible, or you're being authentic, you're allowing other people to do the same. And I have to go back to this little thing here. This was last week's conversation too, because a lot of us are afraid to like really step out of that little box of rigidity, or that box of who we think we are, in order to explore who we are innately. Because that little, how many of you would agree that there's always this little voice that says, you can do this, or just try, or whatever, you know, or just step out of the box. And Kendra says, speaking to what I said before, vacation with rigidity is not a vacation. That was a great point that you made. I just went on vacation, and those around me with time expectations drove me crazy. Hello, sister. I'm here and you're there. Sit back and relax and enjoy the world around you when you can. And that's just, you know, I have to go back to the Bible and what I learned. And, you know, Jesus didn't come to this world with a schedule. He was the perfect fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy. I mean, until he did the teaching and everything that was necessary for his life, his purpose for his life unfolded exactly the way it was supposed to unfold, right down to the crucifixion and the sacrifice that he made. So, you know, if he would have lived his life in complete fear of sharing the message that he had, and it's the same thing for any one of us. If you're living your life in complete fear of sharing your message, then you need to change your mindset. The shift in mindset is all that it's going to take. Be a little bit flexible. And if that means just having a conversation with your best friend about, you know, who you really are inside, or whether that's a conversation that you want to have with yourself in your journal and learn a little bit about who you are, that's a great tool for me. Like, I discovered so much about myself when I was journaling, and I do it every day. I journal every day, even if it's a little paragraph. It's me checking in with myself. It's me checking in with God and saying, hey, you know, I write a letter to God every day. Good morning, God. Thanks for the sunshine this morning. It's beautiful. I woke up to the sunshine on my face. Look at the sun shining through that window. That's not what usually happens in northeastern Pennsylvania in February. It's usually dark and dreary here. Agreed? Yeah, but it's beautiful. So I give thanks for that. So the gratitude piece is the one thing. And then the stepping out of the box and being unafraid speaks to Marianne Williamson's thing. And if you want to see this, Doreen made a beautiful graphic of it on the Transformational Tuesdays blog. Go to the conversation from last week with Tamara Blankenship about fear having a purpose in your life. And sometimes fear sometimes fear protects you. Sometimes being comfortable in that fear-based mind hinders who you are. So Marianne Williamson says, and I'll read this to you, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. That was me. I relate out of this to that statement the most. We are all meant to shine, as all children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just within some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And I guess this really is the purpose for Transformational Tuesdays, to allow everyone who comes to this conversation, whether you come live to the conversation with your beautiful face on the screen, or whether you come on the call, or whether you listen to the replay, show up. Just show up and get ready for the one thing that is always constant in our life, and that's change, transformation. And a butterfly is a symbol of Transformational Tuesdays, and it's the symbol of metamorphosis in the world. And it's, it's growth. It's all kinds of things. A butterfly starts out as a little worm, and it goes into this cocoon, and it transforms into this beautiful butterfly. And in order to get out of the cocoon, it needs to really stretch its wings. It needs to really move and struggle through the process of spreading its wings, because sometimes life gives us those struggles. We are guaranteed to have challenges in our lives. We are guaranteed that things will change and we will grow through those changes. And the butterfly is the most perfect illustration of transformation, along with the ball of clay to a work of art in the pottery conversation. So you're all butterflies, ladies. You all have beautiful wings. You all have, you're all beautiful pieces of pottery in the gallery, showing off and shining brightly for everyone to see and just really love on. Who doesn't love when a butterfly comes onto their finger, or their butterfly just shows up and circles your head, and it just like really, in the movie, Judy and I went to see Lion the other day. Beautiful movie, fabulous movie, but I warn you, bring tissues. It was awesome. And the first scene has this little boy entering into a space where he's like surrounded in butterflies, and I was like, oh, that is so cool, because I know for me what the butterfly symbolizes. Not just the beauty of its fluttering its wings, but the growth that had to take place in order for and the struggle that had to take place in order for that butterfly to have those beautiful wings to fly and be there for me to see. So you're all butterflies. Step out of the box of fear and become who you really are. You are indeed a child of God, and we are to make manifest the glory of God that is within each of us. And for those of you who don't believe that, just try to stop the oceans. Just try to stop the waves in the ocean. Just try. It's impossible, because there is something bigger and bolder than us that has put this all together for us to be able to be here on a Tuesday afternoon and have this conversation. So anybody have anything else they want to say before we come to the close of this conversation? We're at 5 minutes before the hour, and I want to allow space for anyone who has anything else to share. And Kendra, I'll look for anything that you have in the chat box, which of course She says, you're so refreshing, Teresa. Thank you so much. This really touches my heart. That really touches my heart. Thank you. You know, she also says, everything happens for a reason, and if we push against it, we will create tension, heartache, and grief. I couldn't have said that better myself. Couldn't have said that better myself. That's awesome. Thank you. And you are refreshing. I'm grateful that you come to this conversation whenever you can. I appreciate you. And I appreciate all of you, because without you, there would be no Transformational Tuesdays. Share this, please, with your friends. Let them come to the conversation, or go to transformationaltuesdays.com and see the new format that Doreen has created. Go to the blog. In case those of you haven't noticed, you're going to get one email a month from us to give you the synopsis of what happened throughout that month. So we're going to kind of condense everything down and give you links to the blogs that now have all the information that you would normally get on a weekly basis for each of the conversations that we've had. So those are there. The link to the most recent conversation, the recent show, is going to be on the front page of Transformational Tuesdays. You can just click on that and watch it. You can go to the replays tab, and if you want to download the audio recording, if that's easier for you, feel free to go ahead and do that. That's available to you as well. If you want to watch or listen to any of the other Transformational Tuesdays calls, they're there for you. There is no charge. You go and pick them up, just download them, sit in front of them and watch it. Go to our YouTube channel and like the YouTube channel if you wouldn't mind. Subscribe to that, and everything is there. Doreen takes these conversations once they're uploaded to my computer. She gets them. She puts them on YouTube. She'll put one on the front page. There's a bunch on the front page. If you scroll down, there are some. Oh, no, I'm sorry. If you go to the replay tab, right, Doreen? Go to the replay tab. The videos are there.
There's a replay tab that's for audio only, and then there's a videos tab that have all the videos on them. So depending on what type of format you're looking for, and the audios are segmented by year.
Yes.
Obviously,
and you just hover over the replay tab. All that menu will come up for you.
Yeah, so, and obviously we just started doing the videos since. I guess it was August, last year, middle of last year.
Yeah.
So there's about 12 of them on the video page. The rest of them, you can go to the YouTube page and find them.
Awesome. Thank you. And Transformational Tuesdays actually started in 2010. So, and was it 2010? Yeah.
I think it's 12.
2012 maybe. There were 2 years of shows there that were just audio shows that are still on the page, that you can go into the archives and go ahead and look at. Different format than what it is now, but still great information comes through this. So I just invite you to keep coming to Transformational Tuesdays. Invite your friends to come to Transformational Tuesdays. Go to dailygiftbookseries.com in order to find out about the gratitude book that we are hoping to put out by the end of this year. Wouldn't it be great to have that done by Thanksgiving? I better get my tail in gear.
Yeah, and I also would like to invite everybody, because one of the other things that we made a change on was we are doing a tech segment. So if you've got any questions, go to the contact page. That's where you can contact Teresa, but it's also where you can ask any tech questions. And the tech segment happens every 6 weeks. So
and the next one is 2 weeks from today. Next week we have, I believe, Joe DiChiara is going to be our guest, and he's going to talk about business startups. So if you have a business in mind, or you have a small business right now that you're running, this is a conversation for you to be part of. He's going to bring all kinds of information on the how-tos and what-fors and the setup of a new business and whatnot. He's going to have all that information for us next week on Transformational Tuesday. So the great thing about us is we have a very broad spectrum, because change does not just affect one part of our lives, it affects all parts of our lives. And that's the one thing you can count on, is change and transformation. The question is, are you going to go along for the ride, or are you going to stay in your box? Are you going to live rigidly, or are you going to live with flexibility? The choice is yours. I call it flying by the seat of my pants, and I love every minute of it. So it even becomes a conversation on Transformational Tuesdays. So I invite each one of you again to come back and join us next week. And in the meanwhile, enjoy traveling, what I like to call the transformational trails of life. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.